Well, hello, welcome back. So, we are finishing off the Japanese rice bag as part of our Sunday stitching today. Now, I'm saying finishing off because I'm going to put the tie in and I've decided to put some lace around the top. But I'm not convinced that I don't want to come back and then maybe add some other little bits of lace on it, or if I'm going to want it plain. So we'll see what happens. So as you know, I made all of the middle bag and then I made another one to slip up the outside of it, which is this one here, but this one had the wadding and all of the patchwork pieces on it. Each side has got one of these Sashiko type pieces on it. This is the one in the dark blue that I had from a stencil, whereas this was the one that I purchased, I think, the year before last, I don't know. And it was pre-printed with the stitch lines on it. And again, this is one I did from the stencil. And then this was one of the other printed ones that I had. And all the other fabrics are, or apart from that one, they're all from the Advent fabric bundle that I had. And then again, the base is padded and I've used a complete piece there because it's not going to be seen. And I just ran stitches to give it a bit of a quilted effect. And as you can see, it stands up beautifully. It's nice and solid, no questions. So, for the drawstring, I've basically torn off this same fabric that I used for the back, and I've deliberately torn it, and that is, give or take, a 2-inch strip. It's marginally under. And because the fabric wasn't as long as I wanted it to be, I've actually done two exactly the same. And I'm gonna join them just to give me the additional length that I require. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is get this lace on. Okay, so we'll lay it on its side. Real simple, basic, calm stitching today. Nothing overly fancy. Now, I've pinned that, but these have been stitched to the back. Just seemed an obvious place. I'm just going to put a pin in there to hold it for me. Like so. And just come along. With regard to these side seams, as you can probably see, I did blanket stitch all the way around there. So how is everybody? Another bank holiday weekend. Crazy, isn't it? Feels like every weekend lately is a bank holiday weekend. I mean, we've got quite a busy weekend. We've got family on Saturday. We've got an event to go to on Sunday. I don't know yet if it'll be more family or resting on Monday. So lots of things going on for us. Mind you, we always find that bank holidays are quite busy for us because it's guaranteed time that, you know, the family have got. When I say the family, I'm obviously referring to my girls, and then obviously we can trim that off when the time comes. Because they're all working and busy, it's a guaranteed time, you know, because they've got the 3 days for the weekend, then we can get to see them because, well, there's a spare day, isn't there, you know. So I'm just finding my scissors out of that tag bag. I've got a standard needle, and this is that cotton crochet thread that I whimsically bought because I was gonna crochet some doilies. Now, I can crochet, but this is so fine. I just couldn't, my eyes couldn't cope with the tiny stitches. So it's become a sewing thread, and it's actually what I use to do the sashiko pattern on there. Now, whilst I was researching for this bag, I did come across another bag. I think it's called a Japanese knot bag. I might have a go at one of them next. But then also, oh, see, there's so many things I want to do. There's so few hours in the day. Also, I was watching. Right, I'm going to go between the layers so that that knot is just so that that knot is between the layers. So I can poke it down in there like that, and then it's going to be hidden. Okay, and then I'm just going to literally, whoops, do a standard running stitch all the way through, and I'm going to try and use this pattern at the top to guide the size of my stitches. So I've gone sort of in and out, yeah. Just want to make, yeah, I didn't think I was. I'm not catching the back. I need to make sure I'm catching all the layers, obviously. So maybe this shouldn't have been done on camera. Maybe this is something that I should have done in the privacy of chaos. Right, there we go. So I've now moved to the lower pattern, so I'm going over to that hole and then under to that hole. It will still give me an even stitch because obviously I'm going through the pattern. It just won't be as tight as it was at the top. So then literally it becomes very easy just feeding it through, just making sure that it stays on the top line. Pull that pin out because it's stiffening things up. So anyway, how are you guys? What are you all up to for the bank holiday weekend? I do appreciate that if you're outside the UK, it may not be a bank holiday for you. In which case, what are you doing at the weekend? So, and I know you can hear hubby chatting in the background, but I promise there's no state secrets. He's just chatting to a colleague about life. Really, I can hear exactly what's being said, so there's no problem there at all. Definitely no copyright issues or anything for YouTube to flag, because it's just a conversation. It sounds like a conversation about money. I know this particular colleague that he's talking to has been having some trouble getting his invoices paid, which is never a nice thing, especially the way things are with the cost of living at the moment. Thinking about work, I have actually got a day job that I must get done next week, so I'm not quite sure where my videos will be. Got to earn the pennies, as it were. But we were talking about work the other day, and I'm going to sound a bit like a sermon giver today, and that's not really my intention. You know, I try not to make my platform political. I want it to be a, you know, a crafting channel of love and fun. But there are things, and the reason I'm going to share this with you, that happen, which at the time may be a bit naughty, maybe a bit cheeky, in the way that people treat you. But as time goes on, you look back and you laugh. And just talking about this colleague of Colin's trying to chase invoice money. You know, what is it? Don't be like Billy. Pay your bills. And do you know what? For someone who has been self-employed for most of her life, I would say to you, if you do find yourself in a situation where for whatever reason you can't cover the invoice for somebody's work that they've done for you, don't stick your head in the sand, for two reasons. One, the longer you stick your head in the sand, the bigger the problem appears to get. Whereas what you could do is pull up your big girl pants, pick up the phone, or if you don't want to pick up the phone, send an email and just be honest. If all the people that I've had problems with in my business over the years had picked up the phone and been 100% honest with me, I would have A, respected the situation, B, respected the fact that they respected me in knowing that whilst it wasn't their fault, not paying my invoice was obviously going to leave me in a tricky situation. So it would have been respect all round. They'd have been greeted with, empathy and all of those things. They wouldn't have been admonished. However, when they stick their head in the sand and you have to keep chasing them and they don't respond to you, that's when there's a problem. So in a roundabout way, you as the victim, because you can't afford to pay the invoice, by not dealing with that with a simple phone call or a simple email, you've actually created a much bigger problem. So just a little sort of word to the, whatever. But the funny story that I was going to share was hubby and I were having a chat last night, and for some reason we were reflecting on things that had happened in our businesses. And he's always very quick, without reason really, but he's always very quick to remind me of things that have happened to me rather than look at things that have happened to him. And I think that's because although he understands it a bit more now, from a very early point in our relationship, he was, shall we say, dumbfounded that craft, because I've always been in craft really. I mean, the stained glass business, stained glass is a form of craft. The soap skincare business, it's a form of craft. And now, paper and fabric, it's all crafting. And he's always been surprised at how my income has often, it's often matched, sometimes surpassed his as a professional. Now, this is not, look at me, how wonderful I am. This is just a conversation, yeah? Because he spent many years training to do what he does and get his qualifications. So it's always been, an item of conversation between us. How, whilst I am skilled, because I have got a degree and so on, it's not in the areas that I've earned money ever, which is, quite funny. So in the areas that I've earned money, I'm totally unskilled, totally unqualified. And he always finds that really fascinating. And because a lot of my working time has been at home, I mean, I've had a shop and a studio and things as well, but has been at home, and he's been at home, he's been very aware of me chatting to customers. I have customers, he has clients, as they're coming in or going out. And he was laughing last night, remembering, because I used to teach a lot of skincare classes, and he was remembering last night about how one particular lady had come to me for a class to learn how to make skincare. And when she was leaving, I sort of said, well, I hope you've had a nice day. It's been lovely to meet you. You know, all those polite, customary things that you say. And she said, and I just opened the door as she said it, so hubby heard. She said, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but you have far exceeded my expectations. And it was just something that, whilst it was a very lovely thing to say, it was something that struck both hubby and I as, you know, something of amusement. And we've smiled at many, many times. And he was remembering that last night, and we talked about it for a minute. And then he said, oh, and do you remember the lady with the soldering iron? Because again, you know, I had a stained glass business, and part of that business was a shop that sold raw materials to students of adult education. And I said, oh yes, goodness me. So what happened was, I was in the shop one day and the phone rang. And I answered the phone, as you would, you know. Why would you not answer the phone? There you go, that's quite pretty, isn't it, round the top there? And we've got, because we followed the pattern of the lace, we've got an even stitch all the way round. I'm pleased with that. That suits me, and of course it's all sealed up, and that just adds a little prettiness to that. So I'll bend that down there so you've got something pretty to look at. So yeah, I was in the shop one day and the phone rang. Right, let's deal with this bit. So what I want to do is I want to do a big cross here to join them together, but try and, rather than just stitching it together, whoops, I pulled too far. I want to, so let's do a knot in between the layers. I want to keep it in the style of the bag. Anyway, back to the story. So I was in the shop one day and the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and the lady on the other end of the phone said, I'd like to purchase a soldering iron. And I said, okay, fine, no problem at all. Now, we used to carry two types of soldering iron for joining the lead or applying solder to the copper tape. And so we used to carry two. One was a 75 watt, and that was the cheaper model. And then we also used to carry 100, I think it was 20, oh, can't really remember. I think it's 125, which was obviously the dearer model. So I said to her, did you want the 75 or the 125? And she said to me, oh yes, I want the 125, please. So I said, okay, did you want that posted? Are you going to, you know, pay for it now? So she said, oh yes, please, if you could send it out. And she started to give me her address, which I was writing down. So far so good, yeah? All sounds pretty normal business type conversation. And then she said, however, I spoke to Claire on Monday, and she said I could have a discount. So I believe they're normally $79.99, something like that. and she said I could have it for $59 because I've been purchasing, you know, for quite a while from the business, and as a loyal customer, she said I could have a discount. Oh dear. So that's where the problem started. Because, as most of you know, I am a very fair and honest person, and I can be quite generous and sharing. However, when people try to scam me, it doesn't go down very well. So I said to this lady, sorry, could you repeat that? So she said, oh yes, I rang on Monday and I spoke to Claire and she said I could have it for $59.99. So I said to the lady, I'm very sorry, but you've got a problem there. So she said, what do you mean? Why? I thought Claire was the owner of the business. So I thought if she said it, that was acceptable. And I said, well, yes, she is the owner of the business. And yes, if she said it, it would be acceptable. However, I'm Claire. We don't open on Mondays and I don't give discount to anyone. So, would you like to purchase the soldering iron at full price? Or would you like to cancel your order? At which point there was a lot of down the phone, and I said, look, you know, it is what it is. It's been done. Did you want to go ahead with the purchase or not? She said, yes, please. My credit card number is blah, blah, blah. So the moral of the story that I'm trying to share with you today is small business owners, we work very hard for our money and we try where we can to play fair. Well, no, we do play fair by you guys, and we try where we can to make things, you know, affordable. We appreciate everyone's got a budget, but please don't try to not pay your invoice or convince someone that you're entitled to a reduction that you're not. So, you know, it's just not on, really. So there you go. There's my my little story about apparently exceeding unknown expectations and, well, offering discounts that I didn't know about. Okay, so I've stitched a triangle in here, just, well, because I thought it would be decorative. And you saw I did that sort of cross on one side and a square on the other. That's not very straight, but that'll hold it together. I could, if I wanted to, do another sort of couple of lines, but I think that'll hold it together firm enough. It's only to sit on my desk. It will probably not be opened and closed, but I wanted it to be authentic with a closure. Okay, so that's that side done. We've put our lace on. I'm just now gonna do the other side, and that'll be that. Now again, if you don't, you know, you're not a scruffy person that I am. No, if you don't like scruffy like I do, then you may have wanted to use rope, which is much more traditional, or to have you know, folded this in on itself and given yourself, you know, a tube that you pull through. I quite like the rough and ready look. Goes with my character. Right, what did I do? Oh yeah. So yeah, there you go. And you know what? I'd like to, although it started out a bit bad with regard to the soldering iron, I'd like to thank both of those ladies because, you know, they brought, those two things brought a smile to my face for many years. And one of the reasons that we were talking about that last night is because, you know, this is going to sound totally unconnected to you, but the sad news of Tina Turner somebody that I had great admiration for, but oddly I actually had a customer of the glass business whose name was Tina Turner. Really genuine was her name, because of the husband that she had chosen. So of course that brought up, that sad news brought up that memory, and so it went on from there. We did venture out for a dip in the hot tub, and then realised it was nowhere near as warm in the evening air as we thought it was. So having got 2 wet feet each, we basically came in and got a hot shower and made a cup of tea. So that was the end of that game. It's funny, isn't it, what you do? So, boom. Okay, I'm going to wrap that around now. And wrap it round there. Give ourselves a nice little knot. I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, am I on screen? Have I been doing all this? And you're staring at a screen and not what I'm doing. Okay, so the reason I wanted it this long is because I want to fold it in half. So I'm going to fold it in half there, get both my ends on the right sides, like so. Okay, and now I'm going to poke these through. So I might have to put a safety pin in them actually, she says, and of course, where would I find a safety pin? Oh, it's not that big. You must be able to get that through there, Claire. You must be able to get that through there. There we go. And I want to pull it all the way to the fold. So about there. That's good enough for me. Turn it round, do this one. Poke that through there. Make sure that it's not puckered at the moment. Oops. Right. it's going through there, like so. And then our very last one, and you'll see in a minute why I wanted it double, like folded. Sorry, I was going to say I'm not very talkative, but I mean I've talked a lot, haven't I? Now I'm concentrating. Now these two I'm going to put through the loop like so. So it just hangs down there like that. But if you did want to close it, obviously, look. And there is your bag all sealed up with a handle to go. Ta-da! There you go. It's done. I love it. I'm very pleased with it. I'm going to open it up because I want it as a box, don't I? Not as not as a bag. But I could if I wanted to. I'm suddenly going to pop to one of my daughters or whatever, and I need to take some sewing with me, then yeah, boom boom, there it is. I hope you like it. I hope you've found some inspiration in, you know, perhaps making one for yourself, and I hope you enjoyed this story. Stay safe. I'll see you very soon. Ta-ta for now.